Hello everyone and welcome to DynamicsCon. My name's Rachel Profitt and I'm here today to present to you a look inside posting profiles. I am a senior fast track solution architect at Microsoft, and for those of you who don't know me, I've got a contact slide here. Again, my name is Rachel Profitt. I am a white female with long reddish brown hair that is up in a ponytail today. I am wearing a purple shirt with white dots and a pink sweater over the top. I'm in my office as usual with my epic sticker wall behind me, and my contact information is here on the screen. I do invite you to connect with me on Twitter, check me out on YouTube, connect with me on LinkedIn, or check out my blog at dynamics365lady.com. So in today's session, I've got three basic objectives that I want to go over. First, we're going to describe the purpose and concept of posting profiles. I'm also going to talk you through all of my recommendations for best practices when you're setting up and configuring your posting profiles in Dynamics 365. We're also going to discuss accounts for automatic transactions, and I've also pulled together some resources and links for you that we'll review at the very end. So with that, let's just dive in and take a look at posting profiles. Posting profiles are something that are really critical in Dynamics 365 finance and supply chain management, or project operations and commerce for that matter. They're something that's mandatory to be set up in order to start using the system and posting into the general ledger. So posting profiles are a term that we use in finance and operation apps to describe the configurations that control how your SUBLEDGER accounts are converted to main accounts for use in transactions that are going to post anything into the general ledger. So let's take, for example, if you're converting the customer to an accounts receivable main account when you post an invoice, like a sales order invoice. In some modules, there is a page that is specifically named posting profiles, for example, customer posting profile or vendor posting profile in accounts payable. Other modules and features do not have a page named posting profile. Some modules may have multiple options for configuring the ledger posting as well for transactions that are being generated from that particular subledger. One example of this is production control module. This is where you can set up the posting by either a production group, resources, or resource groups, and so on. It's also important to note that an alternative to posting profiles exists for many types of transactions, which is referred to as posting definitions. For any document types that are supported, you can use posting definitions instead of posting profiles to classify main accounts and financial dimensions on accounting entries. If you plan to use encumbrances or pre-encumbrances, a posting definition is required to define those accounts for the accounting entries. It's important to note that typically posting profiles are used in the public sector for all posting, and it's optional to use it in other types of organizations, but this is not technically a public sector specific feature. So let's take a look at posting types. A posting type in finance and operations apps is a term that we use to define a general category of a debit or credit. It's independent of the main account in the general ledger. Posting types are on each debit and credit in the general ledger. A single voucher can have one or more posting types assigned to it though. So for example, a transaction is posted through a general journal with the account and offset account to the ledger that will have a posting type of ledger journal for both the debit and the credit. While a vendor invoice that contains a header and multiple lines, for example, will contain multiple posting types, including one line for the vendor balance and additional lines for the offset entry, such as ledger journal. The posting types generally map to the option you configure in a posting profile, although it's important to note that the names are not always 100% consistent. So let's take a quick look. The posting types can be viewed on the voucher transactions page by clicking on the General tab and viewing the posting type field. In this particular example, I've used the personalization toolbar to move and add the posting type field into the Overview tab grid to make this field easily accessible and visible when viewing the vouchers. You can access that voucher screen from all over the system. You can get to it from clicking on a main account and then clicking transactions. You can also get to it from any transactional screen throughout the system, like from a sales order invoice, a journal, a production order, and so on. So now I want to switch gears and talk about what I like to refer to as the table group all paradigm. If you're not familiar with this table group all option, it's used throughout the system in a lot of different places. One example that's not posting profiles is trade agreements. It's important to understand what these mean, so let's take a closer look. The table option refers to the master record that's associated with the posting profile. Each table record is specific to one value that you specify in the field that follows, which is typically called the account code. This field is typically labeled account or account/group number in the posting profile forms. But the exact label on the field might vary from page to page or from posting profile to posting profile. For example, when you're working with a customer posting profile, the option for table represents a specific customer. If you select table in the account code field, you must select the customer number in the account/group number field. The table option is the most specific type of record, and the system will always use this value, even if you've configured another record with the option for group or all, which is the sequence that the system uses. Group refers to a customer group in the example of a customer posting profile, and all refers to all customers. Now, if you do not create a record for a posting type in a posting profile where the account code is set to all, and the system cannot find a matching posting profile record for the group or the table options, the system will revert to the default, which can be specified in the Accounts for Automatic Transactions page. Now, there's a special option called Category, which you'll find in the Inventory Posting Profiles page. This option is specific to sales categories and procurement categories. This option is similar to the table option in that it only applies to a specific sales or procurement category. Most important is that procurement category. If you're planning to use the vendor invoice page to process invoices that are not related to a PO, you will be required to configure a procurement category and link that procurement category to the correct GL account. So now let's switch gears, and I want to take a look at a detailed example of a posting profile. And for our example, we'll be using the customer posting profiles. But before we dive into the customer posting profile, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the all-up accounts receivable posting. Now, the primary posting profile for the accounts receivable module is the customer posting profile, and that's the one that we're going to dive into in much more detail. This posting profile is used to determine which summary account, which is a main account, should be used when posting customer balances into the general ledger. This summary account is also referred to in most organizations as the accounts receivable trade account. Methods of payment are another type of posting, which in this example, it's not a posting profile, but a feature that has posting controls directly on it. And the rest of the examples I'm going to be giving are the same as well. But the methods of payment are used to define how a payment will be posted to the general ledger. And they help control the behavior of the payment output. One method of payment is typically created for each type of payment that your organization will accept. For example, cash, check, credit card, money order, wire, and so on. The next posting that I want to talk about is the bridging posting. Bridging posting is a two-step process that's used with the posting of payments. You actually configure this directly on the methods of payment form, as well as the main account that will be used for a method of payment. It's an optional feature that can be used with zero balance bank accounts, for example. It can be used to help ensure a more smooth and timely bank reconciliation process. Bridging posting starts by posting to a temporary account, or the bridging account, that gets reversed and posted to the bank account when the payment clears the bank. If your organization chooses to offer cash discounts to customers for quick payment, you'll need to configure cash discount codes and determine how the discounts should be posted to the general ledger. There are a variety of options available for specifying the main account to be used for posting customer cash discounts. We won't be going into those in detail, but you can find more information on the docs site. Next up are payment fees. Payment fees allow you to automatically add a fee to a customer payment when a set of conditions apply. Payment fees can be charged back to the customer, or they can be posted as an expense into your bank account, for example. If you must track sales amounts in addition to line items, then it's likely that you're using charges codes. These used to be referred to as miscellaneous charge codes in earlier releases. For example, you might charge freight and handling fees to your customer, or you might expense certain freight and handling fees internally. You can specify on each charge code whether the amounts are going to be posted to expense accounts and whether they are going to be added to the cost of the items. Lastly, you can optionally configure the system to calculate commissions for your sales representatives or a group of sales representatives on a given sales order. When you enable this functionality, you'll need to configure the posting accounts to be used for calculating the commissions. This is done in the commission posting page, which you can find in the Sales and Marketing module. So now let's take a closer look at customer posting profiles. Customer posting profiles enable you to assign the general ledger account and document settings to all customers, a group of customers, or a single customer, like the example we discussed earlier. These settings will be used when you create sales orders, free text invoices, project invoices, payment journals, collection letters, and interest notes. The default posting profile that will be used by the system is defined in the Ledger and Sales Tax tab on the Accounts Receivable Parameters page, which you'll find in the Setup area of the Accounts Receivable module. The default posting profile is then included automatically on the header of any new documents, but you do have the option to manually change it to a different posting profile if needed. If your organization accepts prepayments from your customers, then you'll likely want to configure a second posting profile for prepayments and link that prepayment posting profile into the parameters page as the default posting profile for prepayments. So what I want to do now is switch over and do a quick demonstration of a customer posting profile. I'm here in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. What I'm going to do is navigate into the Accounts Receivable module. Then, underneath the Setup area, we're going to go into the Customer Posting Profiles page. This opens up a new page. You can see in my demo data that I have a general posting profile and a prepayment posting profile. This is the most typical configuration that you'll see. In my example, you can see that we have a general posting profile with 3 different rows configured. The first row is configured for the customer group called 30, which is retail customers. The second group is for group 90, which is my intercompany customers. And my third group is the fallback. It's for the all other customers. So if customers are in group 30 or group 90, the settings that are specified here will get used. You can see that customers in group 30 are going to post to account number 130100. You'll also notice that in group number 90 that we're posting to 133300 instead. One of the other key differences that you might notice on these groups is that I have the ability to have a different collection letter sequence and interest code. When I select the all account, you'll notice that it is also posting to the 130100. And in this case, we've specified a liquidity account for payments. This is just pointing to the bank account. This is used with the legacy cash flow forecasting functionality. On my prepayments account, you'll notice that in this posting profile, it's set to all customers, but this time I'm pointing my summary account, which is the customer trade account, is now posting to a liability account, which is in this example 212160, which is my customer deposits account. You'll also notice that a sales tax prepayment account has been specified. To create a new posting profile altogether, you'll use the new button. By clicking up there, you'll give it a name, and then you can type in your ID and description. If you just want to add a new customer group to an existing posting profile, instead of using the new button, I've selected the general posting profile, and I'll click Add in the Setup tab. Here, I need to select if I'm going to use an account code of table, group, or all. For this example, I'll select group, and then in the account/group number field, I'll use the drop-down box. Because I selected group, the drop-down box is going to show me a list of customer groups. So if I wanted to select that my major customers are going to go to a different account, I can do that. I want to quickly, though, show you if I select table, the account/group number field, drop-down box will give me a list of every single customer. I'm going to switch this back to group. Next, I'll need to select the summary account. The summary account is where the GL posting will occur for the accounts receivable trade. When you click the drop-down box, you'll see the list of every single main account in your chart of accounts. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to select this option here for the accounts receivable foreign. If required, I can specify a liquidity account, sales tax prepayments, liabilities for discount, collection letter sequence, interest codes, and so on. When you're finished, you can save the record and close the form. So, taking a quick review of a sample customer posting profile, the table here shows examples of the default posting types with sample main accounts and descriptions. The debit or credit column indicates if the transaction is typically a debit or a credit, and in some cases, it can post to either. The clearing account column indicates the posting type is a clearing account. This means that the amount posted in this account is automatically reversed when a later transaction is posted. So for this example, you can see that the customer balance account is 130100. The main account name or description in this example is accounts receivable trade. The account type is an asset. In this example, you can see that the debit credit column indicates both. It's important to note that like an invoice, a standard sales order invoice, would credit this account and a payment would debit this account. But it's also possible to create a sales order return, which would debit by default. And if you were refunding a customer some money, that would be a credit. You'll notice that neither one of these posting types are marked as a clearing account, and that's because they are not automatically reversed. They're only posted to when you end a transaction or you financially recognize it. So with that, let's go ahead and switch gears to our recommended practices. My first recommendation, and it's probably one of the most important recommendations, is do not allow manual entry. Any main account that's used for a posting profile should have the do not allow manual entry flag set on the main account page, which is pictured here. You can see it's circled in red. This checkbox ensures that a user cannot manually post a journal entry into the main account. This ensures that the subledger will remain in balance with the ledger and helps make your reconciliation process easier at your period end. So you might be wondering, well, how do I make adjustments? If adjustments are required to an account that is controlled by the system and posted to automatically, you can do one of two things. First, you can create a secondary main account where the adjustments can be posted. Then you can use a total account or a special row in your financial reports to group and sum the accounts together. The second option, which is I think the preferred option, is reverse the original transactions in the appropriate subledger, and then make any necessary corrections and repost the transaction through the same subledger. My second recommendation is do not make changes after transactions exist. If you make changes to a posting profile after transactions exist, this can cause the reconciliation to fail and your subledger and ledger to be out of balance. In general, it's not recommended to make changes to the posting profile after your transactions exist. When you do have the need to make a change, we recommend that you use the following guidelines to help ensure integrity of the system. First, you're going to make the change during a period end. It's also important that you make that change when no other transactions are happening in the system. So you want to do it during like an off hours time. It's also super critical that you validate and reconcile the ledger to your subledger, both before and after the change is made. Keep in mind that making a change to the posting profile does not update any posted transactions. You should consider carefully if adjusting entries are going to be required for your change. If you're making changes to inventory posting profiles, you'll want to make sure that you consider how the change will affect your on-hand inventory and the ledger balances. Some changes may require that you bring the inventory to zero, close the inventory, and then bring the inventory back in after the adjustments are made. And lastly, I can't emphasize this one enough. Always test your changes in a non-production environment prior to making the change in production. My next recommendation is to consider using database logging. While I'm not an advocate of using database logging on your transactional changes, it is something that I do strongly recommend for your parameters and posting profiles that control how posting works. In the event that a parameter or a profile is changed, you'll have a full audit record of what value was changed, who changed the value, when the value was changed, and what the previous value was. This information can be critical in your reconciliation process, and your auditor may need the supporting documentation. Here you can see a screenshot example of the customer group as just one example selected in the wizard for the logging database changes. Keep in mind again, we do not recommend that you select this option for transactional tables, just for the parameter and posting profile related changes, which should not be updating on a frequent basis. The next recommendation is that you do not change groups after transactions exist. This is really important. You should use caution when changing any kind of groups, whether that's an item group, an item model group, a customer group, a vendor group, and so on. This is especially true if you're using groups to define your posting profiles, because making a change to a group on a master record can have a negative impact again on your ability to reconcile the ledger to the subledger. For example, you could configure the inventory posting profile for sales order revenue to use a different revenue account for each item group. If you change the item group that is assigned to an item after transactions exist, the revenue on new transactions will post to the updated account, but any revenue posted prior to that update will remain in the original account. My next slide, and I said it earlier and I'll say it again, you can't test enough. I strongly recommend that you test your posting profiles. Prior to your go live and after making any changes or addition to your posting profiles or the related parameters, you should test each scenario. At a minimum, you should test each posting type to validate the posting works correctly. However, my recommendation and the recommended approach is to test each posting profile transaction and combination. So let's take a look at an example. Let's assume you have 2 customer posting profiles, and each posting profile has 3 records specific to customer groups. You should test each transaction type and combination for the 3 groups. So let's assume that you have 2 posting profiles, a general posting profile with one group, customer group that is, for employees, customers, and intercompany, and each one points to a different accounts receivable trade account. Then you also have a prepayment posting profile with one record for all prepayments, pointing to the customer prepaids account. Now, let's take a look at the third level of our testing example with the testing scenarios. First, you're going to want to test a free text invoice for a customer in the employee group with the general profile and the prepayment posting profile. Then you're going to want to test your sales order invoice for a customer in the employee group with the general posting profile. And repeat that process for a prepayment in that same employee group. Lastly, you'll want to test your customer payment journal for a customer in the employee group with the general posting profile, and do it again for your prepayment posting profile. Using this example above, you're going to repeat each one of your testing scenarios for each customer group and repeat each group of testing scenarios for each additional transaction type. This is not an exhaustive list of all the transaction types. You might also have project invoices, service management, and so on. My next recommendation is to make sure that you're reconciling your ledger to the subledger. I've mentioned it a few times already in today's presentation, but it's recommended that prior to going live, you perform a mock period close and reconcile each of your subledgers to the ledger prior to the actual go live. Additionally, it's recommended to perform a mock cutover of all of your open balances and open transactions prior to your initial go live. As part of this process, a complete reconciliation should be executed to ensure that the migration of balances and open transaction balances with your legacy systems, and make sure that all of the subledgers balance with the ledger prior to creating any new transactions. Now, after your go live, each period, the ledger should also be reconciled to the subledgers. Many modules contain reports out of the box that can be used to help reconcile the ledger to the ledger. And depending on your local requirements or your specific reporting requirements, you may need to extend existing reports or develop custom reports to meet your organization's reporting requirements. Now, I want to switch gears to accounts for automatic transactions. You heard me mention them earlier, but now I want to dive in a little bit deeper so you can have a better understanding of how these work. So here you can see the accounts for automatic transactions page. You can access this through the general ledger module in the setup area by opening the accounts for automatic transactions page. And in a new legal entity, by default, this list will be empty. You can populate the page with the most common posting types that should be configured by clicking on the Create Default Types button up in the header. Then, for each row, you can select a main account to be used in the grid. Let's talk a little bit more about what is created automatically. Again, this page is used to define the default main account to be used for each posting. While most posting types can be configured in a module or a feature-specific page, some posting types can only be configured in this page. For example, you can configure the main account to be used for the customer balance posting type in the summary field on the customer posting profile page and use a different main account for each customer posting profile. This allows you to have more granular control of the postings. But on the other hand, the error account or the inter-unit accounting or consolidation balance accounts can only be configured in the accounts for automatic transactions page. It's important to note that if the main account field is left blank for a posting type and you have not configured a main account in a module-specific or feature-specific page, an error will be received when you post a transaction that uses that particular posting type. The message will typically read something like, the account for whatever your posting type is cannot be found. So I've put together a quick reference guide that you can use. In this table, I'm showing examples of the default posting types that are created when you click the Create Default Types button on the Accounts for Automatic Transactions page. The table shows sample main accounts and descriptions. The debit or credit column indicates if the transaction is typically a debit or a credit, or in some cases, it can post to either. The clearing account column indicates if the posting type is a clearing account. This means the amount posted in this account is automatically reversed when a later transaction is posted. I'm not going to read all of these options and examples to you, but you can use this as a reference, and these slides will be available after the conference. So, I've put together what I'm calling a posting profiles reference. This posting profiles reference is something that you can use to get links to additional pages and additional information about each of the different modules. I'm currently working on a project to publish new and updated pages. In some of the cases, the pages and links that I've put here already exist, but there will be updates coming to these pages as I go through my different phases of publishing updated content about posting profiles, all available on the Microsoft Docs site. So, for the first page here, the first one we have is asset leasing posting. There is a page that exists called Setup Lease Posting Accounts in the docs, which you can use as a quick reference. I will be publishing updated and additional content around this. Currently, there's no page that's specific to how asset management posting works, but that will be coming soon. The next one is cash and bank management posting. In the cash and bank management module, it's primarily driven around the bank accounts. We'll be publishing some new articles to explain how that posting works. Next up is currency revaluation posting. There is a page for the foreign currency revaluation for general ledger. There's also another one that's available for accounts receivable and accounts payable as well. And that link isn't here on the page, but it's right underneath the foreign currency revaluation page. I will be publishing some updated content with examples of debits and credits and sample main accounts that you can use. The next one is the accounts receivable posting. There is a page currently that covers the customer posting profiles page. There are some minor updates coming to that page, but we'll also be creating a new page that will be around all things accounts receivable, not just the customer posting profiles page. For example, there are other places where you can specify GL postings like bridging accounts, methods of payment, and so on, which will be covered in that new page. The same is true of accounts payable posting profiles. There is a page that exists already for vendor posting profiles that will have some updates, but we'll also be creating a new page that will have some additional information about how posting works for all things accounts payable. On my second page of posting profile references. The first one we have is expense management. There's no pages right now that give you details about how posting works, but in general, it's controlled through the categories, expense categories. So we'll be adding some detailed documentation to explain how that works, along with samples of main accounts and details about the debits or credits for every posting type. The next one is fixed asset posting. There's quite a bit of documentation around fixed asset posting already. You can find it on two different pages, on the fixed asset acquisition posting accounts, as well as the fixed asset disposal posting accounts. We will be creating a new page to centralize some of this documentation and give you more detailed examples along with the debits and credits for all of the posting types. The next one that we're working on and will be in the list is intercompany accounting posting profiles. While there is some basic documentation about how intercompany accounting works, this page will give you the details. Inventory posting will actually be split out into multiple pages. There'll be a general page that will have some basic information, and that's coming in our first round of updates. We'll also have with that first round a separate page for sales order posting, purchase order posting, production posting, and standard cost posting. So those are each of the different tabs in the inventory posting profile page. We'll have detailed pages about each one of those. The next one is landed cost posting. There is a page called Costing Parameter Value Setup that gives some detail about how these postings work. I do encourage you to check it out if you're interested in how it works. We will be publishing some updated pages with examples as well in probably our third phase of the documentation rollout. Posting definitions is the next one. This is one page, an area that won't be receiving any updates. The pages and documentation that are there are pretty well detailed, including examples. So you can find that the home page around posting definitions is called just Posting Definitions. I encourage you to check that out. The next one is production control posting. There is a page that exists today. It's called production posting. It's got some pretty high level information available today. This is in our second phase of documentation to be updated that will have more details and examples around those. And our last page here of documentation is the posting profile reference page. So the pages that you see here are going to be created. Some of these don't even exist at all. Project management and accounting posting is coming soon. That will likely be in our third phase of rollout of new docs articles around the topic of posting profiles. We will also be creating some specific pages around rebate management and retail and commerce posting, as well as service management. For tax posting, there is a page that exists today. It's called Setup Ledger Posting Groups for Sales Tax. This gives you some high-level information, but we do expect to have some updated content with more examples. And then the last two, we've got time and attendance and transportation management posting. Just to give you an idea of the phases, in the first phase, it's the general information around posting profiles in general, accounts for automatic transactions, AR and AP. In our second phase, it's all things inventory management and production. And then in our third phase, it's all the other modules. So hopefully that gives you some good resources to keep an eye out. If you're not already following my blog or my YouTube channel, I do encourage you to do so, as I'll be posting about those as they become available. And with that, we are going to open it up for questions. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm here live to answer your questions. So if you do have any questions about posting profiles, I know we covered just some basics in today's session, but feel free to try to put questions in if you've got questions about other posting profiles that I did not cover. I do want to say, while I give you a few moments to type in questions, that I've already written more than 100 pages in a Word document that are going to be coming to the docs article soon. And I'm maybe a third to halfway done with the new content that's coming. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully, if you love posting profiles just as much as I do, you're excited about that as well. We did have one question that came in that was really asking about the database logging. I did paste the link to that database logging article here in the chat. If you are looking for a different docs article, do let me know and I can happily look that up. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. Someone did ask, will the slides be available? Yes, the slides are available, or will be available. So, definitely keep an eye out for the links for the slides to be available. Zvika, thanks for the comment. I definitely know this is a topic of great interest for a number of people. It's not new and super exciting content, nothing you're going to see on an Ignite session, but the fundamentals sometimes are so important. So someone asked if I can provide the info for my blog and my YouTube channel. Sure. So I can definitely put that here in the chat. My blog is at https. I'm trying to type. Typing and talking is difficult for me. www.dynamics365lady.com. That's my blog. And then if you're looking for my YouTube channel, that is https://youtube.com/c/dynamics365 unboxed. Thanks, Michael. Glad you enjoyed the session. Obviously, if you do want to reach out to me, connect with me, I'll put my email in here as well in case you don't have it. You feel free to reach out if you've got questions, and I will try my best to get those answered or get them included in another tech talk that's coming up soon. It doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you next time.